Thando Book Club lovers, we are sorry for starting a little bit late and for that false start, but we are back. We've sorted out our sound issues and we're happy to have you with us as per usual. Today, our fabulous guest is Ms. Thembi Ntahane Kamahlangu. Hi, Thembi, how are you?
Hi, Selena. How are you? Thank you for having me. I'd like to greet all your audience that are watching us all over the world right now. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Awesome. So Thembi, we have a tradition on the book club, which is that every show we start with a quote from a famous African author. And this show, I am starting with a quote from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. We've actually reviewed quite a few of her books on the show so far. And I've been saving this quote for someone just like you. And the quote is, "The single story creates stereotypes, and the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story." And when I was reflecting on your work and doing research about you, I realized that that's a lot of your work completes a lot of single stories and adds texture to them. So welcome to the show, and thank you very much for doing that for us as an African female author. So for those of you watching us for the very first time, the Thando Channel Book Club is a weekly live broadcast where we interview African female authors exclusively here. And our mission is to just create an online community that celebrates their stories and stories about women and ourselves as we come together to build our own narrative of who we should be as Africans. And tonight we are going to be chatting with Thembi, author of 3 books. And let me introduce you all to her. Those of you who are meeting her for the first time, I know Thembi has quite a bit of a following that's been growing since she published her first book a couple of years back. But for some people who might be newbies like me, here's a little bit more about Thembi. Thembi is a Mpumalanga born and bred writer, poet, and author. She started pursuing her writing career in 2017 when she was in the 2nd year of her teaching degree. She has always been a ferocious writer, however, but this was when she was really working on her fiction novels. Her debut drama fiction novel, and it is drama, people, is called He Who Saw the Storm. It was first published in August 2020, and this novel is set in South Africa in the 1960s. The novel exposes how child marriage and rape was normalized under culture, and Thembi holds strong views on African culture, which is often deemed inferior to the Western culture. She believes that African culture is rich and beautiful. However, she also believes that culture should not be used to oppress the vulnerable. What inspired her to write this novel was her desire to address the real reason why most women are advised to leave their children at home when marrying a different man. She has always been amazed by the reason behind that, or the lack thereof. She recently released the sequel to the novel titled After the Flame, where she continues to explore child marriage. However, she expanded the themes and includes supernatural powers and African beliefs on twin abomination. Not only is she an author of 2 novels, she also recently published a poetry collection called Chasing the Light. And that was actually released this year in January 2021. So well done, Thembi, for just bringing out those books one after the other. The poetry collection is aimed at ushering people dealing with loss, heartbreak, and depression into the light to give them hope and comfort of a better tomorrow. As a depression activist, she wrote and published an ebook of her first poetry collection when she was battling depression titled In Retrospect, which was actually published in July 2019. Her poetry collection, Chasing the Light, also addresses the theme of depression, which is a topic close to her heart. She has contributed her work to the international publications, including the Woman Scream Anthology to raise awareness for women and children dealing with abuse, Hibiscus Poems, and Heal and Inspire. On top of being a writer, she's an enthusiastic science teacher who thrives in the classroom, and she graduated with a degree in education from the University of Wits in 2019. When she's not glued to her screenwriting or in the classroom teaching, she enjoys going out for a run. She also enjoys curling up in bed with a book or watching a favorite series, The Big Bang Theory. So there is the story on Thembi. So Thembi, tell us in your own words, how did He Saw the Storm come about? What was your driving motivation? How did you even start writing? How did you even start the first line?
Sorry, Selena, I didn't get that. Can you please repeat the question? Your microphone is off.
Sorry, Thembi, I was saying, yes. So I was saying, how did you even start the first line for He Saw the Storm? How did you get into that book, and how did that book come about?
Hi, Selena. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have a problem with your microphone. Okay, so He Saw the Storm. It started as a short story around with ideas. So one night I was having a conversation with my grandmother. Legitimate child, they call it. So the conversation is centered around women who bring I had a little understanding of why it was a bit narrowed until I actually got a deeper understanding to say that these are the real reason, the main reasons why culture, South African culture, says that a woman should not take a child from outside and bring that child into another marriage. So that's not a popular idea. The reason behind that it's not a popular idea is an idea which is very much conserved, which is very much hidden in the African culture. So I thought, no, this is an idea worth exploring. This is an idea that is worth bringing out to the world so that the world can actually learn and have a deeper understanding of our African culture as Africans, how our culture evolves and grows, and to also expose what challenges, difficulties that actually those children that are brought into marriages they deal with, and those women who bring those children into those marriages they deal with. So it was a matter of exploring the idea, teaching other people how about African culture, and also to expose the challenges that the women and children, especially girl children, that they face in those marriages.
Yeah, very deep, very powerful. Why did you set the novel in the 1960s?
The idea was that this is a culture that was practiced, since you know that culture evolves over time. So that is a cultural practice that was actually practiced back then. So it was only logical to set it in the past to say that this is where we come from. We are here now, but this is where we come from. This is what used to happen.
Very good. Very, very good. So for those of us who've not actually ever read He Saw the Storm, let me just share with you a little bit about the book before we continue talking more about the protagonists and some of the things that happen in the book. So He Saw the Storm is a story, and this is the synopsis. After losing her husband, Nomgcibelo leaves her parents and child behind and journeys to Pretoria to work as a cleaner at Kruger Bank. She did not just find a job in that, she also found the love of her life, Banzi Magelela. Banzi Magelela meets Nomki Kazi at the reception at Kruger Bank, and he instantly knows that he wants to marry her. This is the first and last time Banzi ever saw her. No matter how many times he went and stood at the reception time at the same time, she never came. He embarked on a journey to find her and could not find her, and gave up hope of ever finding her until one day his eyes landed on her while he was about to have coffee at a local coffee shop. She did not know that she had stolen someone's heart, and she was going about her life like she usually did. And then there he was, the man she spilled water all over at reception. She was suddenly consumed with humiliation. Charismatically, Banzi walked over to her and introduced himself. Within a few minutes, they were talking as if they'd known each other for a while, and they fell in love. And a message comes to her in the form of a dream, warning her about the storm that is brewing in her new love that is now aflame. But her passion for this man is so strong that it clouds her judgment, and she does not get the message. Not long afterwards, Banzi sends a delegation to Eastern Cape to ask for her hand in marriage. Nomki took her daughter Nomki with her, and they became a family. When challenges come, people forget the vow that says for better and for worse, a vow they take before God. Resentment grows thick and thick with each year of trying for a child with no success until it extinguishes their love altogether. Banzi transforms from being the loving husband to being a monster, calling his wife names for her inability to give him an heir. Her warm home turns into hell that is burning her from within. And then some horrific things happen to Nomki's child. I'm going to let you talk about that as we discuss the book. And we come to a place where there is what some people would call possibly a murder or a self-defense murder. And there is a trial also in the book. So in your own words, there's a big contrast from the beginning of the book where it is a love story to now this murder and mayhem and rape and molestation and broken families and broken culture perpetuating and driving the cycle in the middle of it. So in this is, as you say, the expose of why women were forced to leave their children. So can you tell us in your own words, what do you think the main issue for women leaving or being forced to leave their children was, as you talk about it in this book?
Usually, the reasons they usually come up with is that usually stepchildren, they bring problems into the marriage, but these problems were never discussed deeply to say which are those problems really. Okay, so the main issue is that usually when the wife cannot bear children for the husband would therefore take the daughter to be the second wife to the husband, so that the daughter can bear children for the husband, in a place of the mother being an inability to bear children. So that is the main issue, to say that how can I share a husband with my mother? How can I bear children for my husband's mother? My husband's mother is basically my father. You see, so that is the main issue here, to say that culture, adults, our forefathers, our grandfathers, were trying to protect these children, to say that they do not have to go through that. They do not have to be someone's wife at a young age. So child marriage is often prevented with the culture of saying, if you go into marriage, leave your child behind.
So that's a very compassionate perspective in terms of why the elders would hold back the child. But obviously, what you're also exposing is the issue of pedophilia in child marriage. So the attraction to children by elder members of society or by adults in society. Would you say that that's true?
It is, because when Banzi started, his attraction started, Nomti was only 16 years old. Nomti was just a teenager. Nomti was just a child. So she did not have all the ideas of what was happening, that her father is suddenly having sexual attractions towards her. So she was just free to walk around the house wearing like a child. Little did she know that this, her father, was no so they were supposed to protect her. The person who's supposed to look up should be afraid of. So those are the issues that need to be addressed, to say that this person you're supposed to protect, and now you're turning this person into a victim. You're actually the danger this person is supposed to be protected from.
Very true, very, very true, and very, very interesting. And of course, Nomti and her mom, to a certain degree, take matters into their own hands. Now, what's your take on that in terms of where? Because if we read the prologue, actually, and the little quote you put before the prologue, it's quite clear that things are heading towards a very fiery end. To put so what's your take on the way the women addressed this issue, especially in regards to things like vigilante justice and taking things into your own hands? What's your message there? And what were you getting at when you chose to make that decision in terms of the plot of the story?
Desperate times, they called for desperate measures. Nomti was desperate.
Mm-hmm.
It did not it's not something that happened overnight. The abuse endured started when she was still a child, when she was 16 years old. The rape started, continued until she fell pregnant. Mm-hmm. And when her mother died, she was alone. She had nobody to protect her. She had to protect. I'm not condoning vigilante action and taking the law into your hands, but I understand where Nomti is coming from. Mm-hmm. At her age, she had no one to protect her. She had no one to side with her. She was alone. She was desperate to get away from this man. And mm-hmm. now, because her grandparents in the Eastern Cape, they accepted Lobola under cultural practice. They accepted Lobola. She's now an official wife of the Makalela family. So mm-hmm. back in the day, living and packing your bags, going back home was a taboo, was forbidden. Mm-hmm. If you go up to someone else's house, you are their problem now. You are mm-hmm. part of their family. So Nomti, not a matter of her protecting herself. She was now protecting the children that
Sorry, ladies, we're just having a little bit of a connection problem. Must be all of you on the internet at the same time and after hours. So if you just bear with us. So for those of you who are yet to read the book, just to give you some insight into some of the things that Thembi and I have been talking about, I'll read to you from the quote I just mentioned to you just now. And that is, she stood over his burning body and watched him burn to ashes. He was screaming and begging for mercy, but she was not shaken. She was eager to protect her children, oblivious of the voices around her. She felt a strong grip on her arm and she collapsed to the ground. And so now that Thembi's back, Thembi, if you can pick up where you left off and talk to us about Ntombi's driving motivation to protect her children, as we've just read from the opening paragraph in your book. We lost you a little bit there, so if you could just repeat some of the points you were talking about in terms of how you understand Ntombi taking that action, taking the law into her own hands, how she was basically abandoned, and after the lobola had been accepted, she now was a member of this family and she had to find recourse on her own, and what her driving motivations are, for the fire that culminates in the climax of the story. So if you could just pick up where you left off.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the seventh step. So what had happened was, from the beginning, when Nomti and her mother, they came into the Makalela family, they were not accepted with open arms. Koko Makalela, Banzu's mother, in the story, she shows that she doesn't really accept because of ethnicity. She's from a different tribe, and there is a conflict of culture there. So now, because of that, Nomti and her mother are not accepted. So as the story continues, Koko Makalela is striving for Bantu to actually leave Nomtebelo and Nomti. So Nomti had no one. When her mother died, her mother was the only person that she had. So when she died, she was left all alone. She is left now as the wife to this husband, to this stepfather. So now Banzi has lost his job. Banzi is now an alcoholic, to put it that way, because of stress and everything. As a man in African culture, a man should be a provider for whatever reason. So Banzi is now unable to provide for the family. Now she starts drowning in alcohol. So that's where the abuse starts. So it's not something that it just comes. It's something that has been building up for a long time. So Nomti has been enduring the abuse since she was 16 years old. So now, when there are children coming into the situation, her perspective changes altogether. Her outlook in life, it changes. It's no longer about her, but it's about protecting the children that she has brought into this marriage. Because she did not trust at all that Banzi will not do the same to them as he did to her. So now, she devised a plan. She did not know what to do. So the first thing, she wanted to hurt him as much as he has hurt her. In that process, also escape the abuse and the possible abuse for her children. So she thought, let me set him on fire. Let me blaze them up once and for all.
I'm sorry to laugh, because I also don't want to, like you said earlier, support vigilante justice, but I suppose I'm laughing because people need to read the book to actually understand just how hateful Banzi became. And I think this is one of the things that you do well. You really unpack that for us. So he starts out as a dashing lover, but we are not in any way, deceived that is who he still is after he makes poor choices in response to life's pressures. And I think that's the key there, is that there are choices he could make in terms of his relationship with his mother to push back towards certain pressures, choices he could make to follow through on a certain kind of love, choices he could make. And in certain aspects, values and qualities of life are proven under pressure. And, he fails spectacularly at that time and time again. And obviously the most unforgivable thing is the rape and molestation of somebody who actually is his daughter. So now you then wrote a sequel to the book. So we after Nomti's taken things into her own hands, she stands trial for murder. And there's a theme that you carry across in both books. So in the first book, there's dreams. So there's an element of the supernatural that's hanging around. So some of the spirituality that African people have. And then now in the second book, it's more overt. You're talking now about things like witchcraft. So Bansi's mom, in an effort to plot revenge, starts to scheme and plot, with people sort of living around them, and actually turns to witchcraft to kind of do her revenge. And so we see Nomti having to deal with something else. And how this actually plays out in culture. So you didn't just deal with culture from the issue in terms of the girl child and child marriage, but also spiritual and supernatural beliefs. Why did you choose to really focus on the supernatural in book 2, which is After the Flame, for those of you who would definitely like to read that book? And I would suggest that you do.
After the Flame aims at actually exploring and telling us more about what Nomti went through after the death of Bandi and after she stood trial. So the supernatural is to bring the idea to say that because Koko Makalela could not take Nomti to court to defeat her using the means of justice, she found another way. So there's another alternative that she took in order to fight the battle, to plot revenge, to actually make Nomti feel the same pain that she felt when Bandi died, because Bandi was the favorite son. So when she lost Bandi, she felt like her world was just crumbling down. So she wanted Nomti to feel the same way. So in court, she was not going to win, because Bandi had left a will that stated that everything should be left to Nomti. There was no way she could contest that. So she found an alternative way. And the only way she knew how, as an old person, and in the past, the witchcraft was ferociously practiced. It was there to go to. So it was the only method she knew how to fight the battle. So that is why, in the beginning of the story, we see Koko Mtombeni. Koko Mtombeni comes into Nomti and starts forming a relationship with Nomti. Nomti gains the trust. So she gains the trust of Nomti. Nomti starts trusting and relying on her as an adult. Little does she know that Koko Mtombeni and Koko Makalela, they're actually working together to plot a revenge, to say that since you killed Bandi, Bandi will forever be married to her in the spiritual world. So Nomti will never have another husband, because she already has a husband and they are married now in the spiritual world. So that is why they get a Sangoma to actually take Bandi's spirit and cast it in a snake, and they take the snake and marry it to Nomti. Not knowing, they tell Nomti that in African culture, what happens is that after a person has died, there is a cleansing ceremony and the children, so that the spirit of that person, the husband, can actually look out for them and be there for them and actually see them and protect them. So they use that ruse to say that we are performing a cleansing ceremony for you, whereas it was just a plot to actually get this spiritual, this snake was not a natural snake, the one that occurs in nature. It was a spiritual being that was actually Bandi in a spiritual form, which is actually to be married to Nomti, to say that whoever comes into Nomti's life will have to deal with the spirit. So Nomti will forever be miserable. Nomti will forever be alone.
Yeah, so it's very interesting how far certain people will go to express their vengeance, to express their resistance, to kind of get their own back. And what's actually driving this behavior in terms of Nomti's mother-in-law, if we'll call her that, is the inheritance issue and her bitterness towards that, as well as obviously the bitterness towards her son's death. And at no point does she ever take any responsibility for the horrific things that have happened to this girl. So it's a yeah, disturbing story, but also very honest, where you share, the choices and the lengths that certain people will go to. So what I found very interesting is that you've been interviewed on SABC News Africa. You have also been able to take the book to various literary platforms, and speak about many of the themes that you've shared here today about the book. What has surprised you about the impact and people's response, to what you're talking about?
I actually got, at first, when I was writing the book, everything to me was fiction. It was just me playing around with the people in my head. And recently I've been getting calls from people saying that I went through that. I am going through that. And there was a point whereby I sat by myself and I cried. And never in my life did I ever think, when my grandmother told me that, okay, this is what happens, this is what these children go through, I never actually connected the idea with an actual person going through that. So when I got a call from somebody saying that I am here in life and it's because of I've been through this, this is exactly what happened to me. It changed my outlook, completely changed, to say that I wrote something thinking it was just me exploring an idea, only to find out that it's me telling someone's story. And it touched me deeply to say that people are going through the most. And see, we may not know that too.
Yeah, that's very powerful, especially what you said. You wrote the story exploring an idea, but you ended up telling someone's story. That's a very, very profound. Thank you so much for that. Thembi, we're coming close to the end of our slot here on the book club for tonight, and we can't let you go without you reading to us from one of your books. So we've given you the platform to choose whichever you want to read from, whether it's a poetry book or the duo After the Flame or He Saw the Storm. And please, would you close out today's interview with a reading?
All right. I'm going to read from my poetry collection,
Chasing the Light.
All right. So in this book, I'm exploring 4 themes: the theme of loss, heartbreak, depression. So I'm going to read from the theme of depression, a poem titled Masquerade. So this poem, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this poem. This poem was a dare, or not really a dare, it was a prompt. So a friend of mine sent me the word masquerade and said, could you please write? So I wrote, and then she actually cried after reading the poem. So yeah, so I'm going to read that poem.
Awesome.
Masquerade, the mask that parades, the mask I parade with a smile that always beams to hide the pain that never fades. Scars that never heals, only stop bleeding for a while, they suffocate. Each exhale forced just to escape this pain. The pain I feel, the pain that feeds on my soul, the pain I fail to explain, I hide it with a mask so no one dares to ask, while the pain inside remains. Fixed tight on my face, I pray it never falls, to reveal the tears streaming behind the scars that have gone undefined. This is the mask I never asked for yet, the one thing I treasure most. It is of sentiments of value to me. This mask that I parade is beautiful, jeweled with a fake smile that never falls, doves that always dance to the kiss of the sun. I run and hide each time it threatens to fall. This mask that I parade beneath lies words that I've swallowed in the name of peace, truth omitted in the name of loyalty, dead emotion, weakness, sadness, and misery. This mask that I parade is who I am now.
Wow. Well, I can understand. I can see why your friend cried, because that's actually really quite profound. And so, thank you very much for joining us, Thembi, and thank you very much for the work that you're doing, shining a light on some very serious issues in culture to do with the girl child, and just to help us think about how we can be better humans. So thank you for your bravery and your courage in writing these stories and sharing your truth. To the rest of our book club lovers, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being with us today and listening to these stories. If you would like a copy of He Saw the Storm, you can actually get one on Amazon. It is available on Kindle. And Thembi, can you tell us where we can also get the other books, After the Flame and Chasing the Light? Where can we get those?
After the Flame and Chasing the Light are available on Draft to Digital. So you can just head on to Draft to Digital, and you can purchase a copy of Chasing the Light and After the Flame.
Awesome. So those Chasing the Light and After the Flame are available on Draft to Digital, and Draft to Digital will also be able, does have some very strong distribution networks as well. So you can get those two there, or you can get the very first book on Amazon Kindle at a very affordable price. Do yourself a favor, go through the reading and let us know what you think of the book in the comments here. The live is on long after we've gone live. That's the beauty of the internet, and that's the beauty of the time that we've had here today. So thank you very much, Thembi, and thank you to all of our book club lovers. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week, Wednesday, with yet another amazing African female author. And ladies, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be a fantastic October on the book club. So thank you all, and good night. Thank you, Thembi. Good night.
Thank you very much.